JB, Marvin Harrison already getting 3 firsts. There's 3 liquid firsts in the streets. One of those firsts are probably going to be early. Let's call it a 12-team start 10. How do you feel about getting 3 firsts for Marv just off the rip?
Yeah, like you said, I mean, let's assume one is early, one's mid, one's late, but it gives you the increased flexibility to maneuver around throughout the 24 season. So rebuilding, contending, it's going to be really tough for me to pass on 3 firsts unless it happened to be a 14 or 16 team league. They tend to be mid to late, or maybe it's a league where there's very minimal starters. But in a typical 12 team start 10, I'm not going to be able to pass on 3 firsts for Marvin. But I do think Marvin's going to be absolutely incredible. But that's a nice haul.
Context always matters in fantasy football, but there's some things you might not want to say yes to, but you kind of just have to. This feels like one of those deals. Let's talk about it.
Okay, let's get it. Bitch, let's get it.
Welcome on in. Welcome back to the channel. My name is Ty DeClaire at Ty DeClaire44 on X. I'm joined today by John Bauer at the Bauer Club. Welcome into another edition of the Destination Devy Trade Show. JB, we are in the midst of training camp. Real news, as we record today on Thursday, we're going to have a real live NFL football game on TV. How are you doing, JB? And are you excited for football season?
I'm ready to rock and roll, Ty. The season is almost upon us. I'm a big spreadsheet guy, but it's going to be nice to put those spreadsheets away a little bit and see what's actually happening on the field. Will all of our hard work and dedication and time put into things, from a research perspective, is it going to pay off here? And I think the answer to that question, Ty, is yes.
I truly hope so, because typically what I find is about 10 minutes into the first game, everything goes out the window. So we'll see how that goes. But, if you want your trades on this show, you want to join the conversation, you want to tell John or me how wrong we are, patreon.com/ALLGAS. We're up in there. We're talking trades. We're talking ball all day long. You can get your trades on this show. We'll talk about it. Keep up with everything happening at Destination Devy over at destinationdevy.com. And trust me, if you're not on Underdog, you probably should at this point. You got a couple weeks left to enter that BBM. Use code ALLGAS. Get your special pick and first-time deposit bonus up to $250. JB, I'm not going to belabor the point. Let's just get back into this. So, full context, 12 teams start 10, no premiums, 1 early first, 2 mid-projected firsts. Sometimes you just can't say no to the liquidity, even if you're giving away a player that's considered pretty liquid on his own in Marv.
Yeah, we're talking about, especially with the additional context that we're projecting 2 of those first to be mid and kind of saying none of them might be late. Like, we're talking about the price tag that we're already seeing on Justin Jefferson, CD Lamb. We're seeing it on Jamar Chase. We're getting into the upper echelon of quarterbacks. And again, while I love Marvin Harrison, and I think he's going to have a tremendous 2024 season and a tremendous career, it's just too much value to pass on. Like, I think this is extremely well done. Maybe there was some back and forth, or maybe it was just a cold offer. But if you open your trade inbox and that happens to be sitting in there, that's a pleasant surprise.
Your day would probably start better if you woke up to 3 firsts in your inbox all the time, right? And that's the 100%. Great point is these offers don't come around all the time, and it takes a certain team to even to be able to send an offer like this. So you can't just balk at an offer, especially when 3 liquid firsts hit your inbox. Now, again, premium assets, someone like Marv, you don't want to just send it off without a plan. You want to have a plan with it. And if we're talking 2025 first as well, we got to keep in mind, like Ray's been talking about on the channel, NCAA football 2025, whatever the video game, the proper title is, that thing is going to change how we approach and how the general community looks at these 2025 picks in the incoming rookie class. We're going to have more face-to-name recognition and probably player biases than we ever have. There's something to be really powerful about those 25 firsts, and having a multitude of them is definitely a nice way to, whether it be start a rebuild, start a retool, or have things to use in season. JV, are you finding that you're preferring a certain type of pick? Any 25 first will do? Or just how are you approaching the 2025 class with what you know today?
So I think a lot of it, Ty, it depends on what assets we're moving away. Like, this is going to be, as things stand today on August 1st, like, it's the perfect time to get out from some of these running backs if a team is looking to contend and they're looking to fill that position. Because if we can maneuver ourselves and position ourselves to be in the spot when we go into 2025 rookie drafts, like that running back class, it looks strong. And even the guys like a Travis Etienne, Saquon Barkley, Kyron Williams, Kenneth Walker, Josh Jacobs, like once you get outside of that top 5, all bets are off. And I think this year more than any, it's going to create the opportunity to be able to reposition yourself. So I have a lot of teams where I'm looking at strong quarterbacks, typically super flex or 2 quarterback leagues, strong tight end play, 2 PPR for tight ends, or you have to start 2 with a small tight end premium scoring as well. And then looking at nice value receivers, and then positioning myself to be able to fill out that running back room next year if you were able to accumulate extra draft capital. So right off the bat, like the running back position, the landscape, it's going to be changing. Yes, we have a few heavy hitters at the top of the dynasty rankings right now, but we're starting to see that 2017 class age out finally, where there's going to be some turnover, and we very well could get 2 or 3 running backs, depending on draft capital, depending on landing spot, maybe 3 right off the bat that are in the top 12 of dynasty running backs. And there are some strong wide receivers too. So I think when you mix it all together, putting yourself in a position where we're able to project ahead. Yes, things can change when it comes to these prospects, but you're able to take it and build up your strength maybe at positions where the 25 class isn't as strong. Quarterback could be a big question mark. Again, things can change, but as of now, I think it is a little bit questionable, especially when you look at like last year's class. C.J. Stroud, Anthony Richardson. We have the hype and expectation for Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels here in 2024, but it's going to be exciting. And like you said, with the new NCAA game, there's going to be so much more exposure, so much more name recognition, where the value of these 25 first, you're going to be able to cash out. And you think about it going into the 23 season, like those picks were at max value from the jump. That's not the case with the 25 first. And they're going to continue to increase in value, and more guys are going to pop up, especially in the first round. So being able to cash out this early on a player like Marvin Harrison, it needs to be a great offer. And that's exactly what this was.
Yeah, exactly. I can't tell you, what player is going to be in the first round, second round, third round of the 25. I can't project all that, but I can tell you one thing. There's going to be excitement around these picks, and I'm going to be able to do something with those. But again, if I can even project, if any of the top 6 running backs in the 2025 class came out this year, they would be head and shoulders, number 1 in the class. So a lot of reasons to be excited. But again, if you're going to do a move like that, have a plan. And Vaughn did. He then took 2 of those first from that first deal. I'm assuming probably 2 mid ones, maybe the early one and the mid one, added a second, and got into an Amon-Ra St. Brown and a Christian Kirk. Now, Amon-Ra St. Brown and Marvin Harrison Jr. feel like pretty similar dynasty bets, but I'm going to just bet Amon-Ra St. Brown is going to be the one to actually produce for your team in 2024. And then you're just throwing in that Christian Kirk, the perennially underrated target earner in that Jaguars offense. How do you feel about doing this move on the heels of your Marvin Harrison Jr. liquidation?
I absolutely love this trade, especially with the cascading trades from that first one. Like, you're getting a player, like people just have so much rookie hype. And even though Amon-Ra St. Brown, like, he's not an old receiver, like, he's a veteran at this point. A lot of people, they see him as, just that slot receiver, or just, he's going to require volume. Like, for me, I'm taking Amon-Ra St. Brown over Marvin Harrison Jr. straight up. And now you're giving me Christian Kirk. I have to add a second, but I'm getting a first kickback. Like, that's absolutely, Vaughn, that is a masterclass right there. Whether that was the intention from the start or it just kind of progressed that way, getting Amon-Ra St. Brown, paired with Christian Kirk, who I think is going to have a strong season as long as he can stay healthy. I think Christian Kirk continues to be in that range of undervalued receivers. Christian Kirk, Chris Godwin, hopefully Deontay Johnson, Bryce Young can mesh there in Carolina. So that's kind of like a group that I really like, but just perfection. And I don't want to stay on it too much because, I'm not sure what Vaughn's hat size is, but maybe his head gets a little bit bigger with so many kudos here. But it's just a fantastic trade from start to finish, both of those deals together.
Yeah. No, Vaughn, you know what you did. Good work. Vaughn's a frequenter on this trade show. So Vaughn knows what he's doing. But yeah, like I said, there's some deals he can't say no to and then have a plan with it. And Vaughn showed both of those things there. So let's scroll down. So there's been some conversation in here. I know there was a 7 goat rings trade, which prompted this one to be posted. So let's hop into a couple trades that are in the same league, it looks like. So we got a 12 by 10, no tight end premium, and a heavy contender. It's a win now team. They want to have some liquidity for the future. Not sure if this is the best idea, but they move for the future draft capital based on their current starters. Both of the first are projected to be mid. So Saquon D's Nuts 001 acquired Terry McLaurin, Najee Harris, a 25 first, a 26 first, both projected to be mid, as we know today. And can't forget about that 5 fab, the free agent acquisition budget. They gave away CD Lamb and a 2025 second. So 12 by 10, you're getting 2, I would say, starters in the format in McLaurin and Najee. Probably guys that you want to go up or down from or figure something else out from. But I think Terry can do absolutely fine in that offense. And if Jaden Daniels can unlock Terry McLaurin, that'd be so awesome. Najee Harris projected to eat in a run-first offense. You get 2 firsts, but you have to give up CD Lamb. And I mean, I'll tell you this, JB. Terry McLaurin and 2 firsts probably don't get CD Lamb off me. So if you're sitting there, CD Lamb and a second, you want that side, or are you looking to take away Terry McLaurin, Najee Harris, and 2 firsts on a contending roster?
Yeah, it's interesting because even if you are a contender, the value of replacement, there's a very real possibility that CD Lamb by himself outscores Terry McLaurin and Najee Harris this year. Mm-hmm. And now you're getting what should be long-term production. I'm hoping maybe even by the time this episode comes out and hits the air, like CD Lamb will have a deal in place, most likely, knowing what Jerry Jones typically does and drags his feet. I don't know if that's going to be the case, but I know we're getting the insulated value in those picks, but I need more of a difference maker than Terry McLaurin. And again, I like Terry McLaurin. He falls in that range of receivers I talked about earlier, but he's not getting any younger. You are moving a cornerstone piece for something that we're projecting in those future picks. Now, if this was 225 firsts with one of them being on the earlier side, I can get behind that then. Mm-hmm. But projecting both to be mid, one being 26, Najee Harris just around the fragility of the running back position, like Najee versus the 25 second by itself isn't all that off from a market perspective. So for me, I lean the CD Lamb side, but I like Najee. I like Terry McLaurin, but just from an overall structure of a trade perspective, I still lean CD Lamb here.
Yeah. I feel like this is going to be a bit of a theme on this episode. You say you're a heavy contender, so you're acquiring Terry McLaurin and Najee Harris. If I'm a heavy contender, one, I should probably be in a spot where I'm trying to consolidate to climb the ladder as high as I can to get into an asset like CD Lamb. But if I'm taking on Terry McLaurin and Najee Harris on August 1st, as we record today, those players better be in my lineup and starting every damn week.
But even if they are, though, if you're banking on them to be in your lineup, there's easier ways to find that production. Like maybe we get 13 points, 14 points from Terry McLaurin in PPR settings. You can get close to that for a heck of a lot less than having to give up a cornerstone piece in CD Lamb. So you're probably thinking McLaurin and Harris, they very well could be depth pieces. But if they're being thrust into your starting lineup, are you a contender? Are you a heavy contender? I don't know.
Exactly. And if that's not the case, then there's no way I'm sending away my cornerstone asset for depth and a couple of draft picks in a 12 by 10 league, right? So the math doesn't math totally here for me. I agree. If I'm trying to split up and find cheap starts or just good veteran options, you can absolutely skin that a lot easier and cheaper than, again, giving up CD Lamb and the second. I would like to think that the 5 fab is the deal breaker, and that's what got it to go through. They just needed that 5 fab added to really get it done. But again, it could, I could see it go away where CD Lamb isn't what we think he is, and then you're glad you did it because Terry McLaurin and Najee went up. It just also feels like you're breaking your $1 piece into 4 quarters and just hoping it works out. And that's not really how I want to play it. So
from this trade specifically, like I would have preferred if you were looking to acquire Terry McLaurin, how much more over a Cortland Sutton does he give you in 2024? That might be a pretty small gap. Go out and get a Raheem Mostert or James Conner for less than Najee Harris if you're looking for that depth piece or maybe that last flex spot. Just like the value here is fine. I have no issue overall with that. This could have been structured a little bit differently.
Yeah. Like I said, if it was 225 first, you're giving me a stake in a single class, not put over on layaway in the future. Yeah, there's different ways you could have approached it. Yeah, not a deal I'm making in a 12 by 10, but maybe if you got to a 12 by 12, a 12 by 13, we can have that conversation. But now the reason that one got put in here is because all 7 goat rings had a couple deals. Where was that one? Not that league. Here we go. Oh, maybe it's this league. This is a 10 team, a different league, I guess. 10 team league now. Superflex, full PPR, start 11. Goat Rings has a rebuilding roster. They took over an orphan back in February. They've been trying to slowly build it up for 2026. They have 225 firsts, 225 seconds, 225 firsts, and a single 2026 second. So Goat Rings sent away Trey Lance and Puka Nacua. And they got back Devontae Smith, a 2026 first, a 2025 first, and a 2025 second, and a 2026 second. So a first, 2 seconds, and Devontae Smith for Puka and Lamb in a 10-team start 11 full PPR. JB, Puka Nacua, hammer, not a hammer, a facade, the second coming. People have different opinions on Puka for sure. How do you feel in a rebuild, taking over an orphan? If you have a Puka, you're not trying to win this year. How are you trying to use that Puka asset? And how do you feel about this deal?
I think Puka is the real deal. If he had different draft capital, this conversation wouldn't be happening. With that said, with the additional context here, yes, it's a 10-team league. Even in a 10-team start 11, I'm more likely to consolidate assets and get higher end pieces. But we know they're not contending. We know they are looking towards the future because of the orphan here. You're getting Devontae Smith, who I think is going to continue to develop here. And you're getting the 26 first, the pair of seconds, and again, 10-team league, second round picks. Like, yes, you would like to consolidate those eventually, but you also have fewer first round picks in a 10-team league. So overall, I like this move. Trey Lance, he could hit the waivers for all I care at this point, but you're essentially getting 3.5 first value with proven production included in there in Devontae Smith. So if you want to pivot off of him, you're going to be able to. I'll take the Devontae Smith side here. Again, even with only 110 starters across the board, I like the build of this one, and the additional context definitely pushes me that way.
Yeah, context matters here for me too. Like I said, a 10-team start 11, so essentially a 12-team start 9. So you want your hammers, you want to consolidate, like you said, usually. And if you're on the side taking on the package, it has to make sense. So taking on an orphan, you probably are asset starved because that thing became an orphan somehow. So you have to split assets, find ways to grow out some advantages. And if we know anything about 7 goat rings, they're going to make multiple deals. Trey Lance in a 10-team league is, he should be on the waivers, in my opinion. It's not the league I'm trying to overhaul all the backup quarterbacks. They can go. Puka is definitely the best player in the deal. Puka could outproduce the entire goat ring side of that trade offer, like over the next couple of years.
100%.
But I do feel like Devontae Smith if I'm being pessimistic, I feel like he could give me 50 to 60% of what Puka can give you at a ceiling on a week-to-week basis. And then you're telling me a 2026 first, a 2025 second, a 2026 second as a way to make up the gap on a team that I'm just trying to split some assets, get points off my roster, and move forward. I like that for Goat Rings. I can make that happen. Now,
See,
if Goat Rings was a contender, if Goat Rings was a contender, I'll feel different. But it's still probably good. I don't know how do you cut that, but go ahead, JB.
No, so I didn't mean to interrupt, but
No.
like you made a comment, and I know if I didn't get it out now, I would forget. But
I'm the same way.
Like you mentioned, like 60% of the ceiling from Puka. Like you look at Devontae Smith, there have been games last year, 131 yards and a touchdown, 99 yards and a touchdown with 7 receptions, 7 for 106 and a touchdown, 9 for 96 and a touchdown. Like the ceiling is there. So I would be comfortable saying more than 60%. Is Puka Nacua going to get the volume that he was getting earlier in the season due to Cooper Kupp being out? I don't think so, but it's not a knock on Puka. I just think getting the flexibility, the insulated value, the multiple assets, not consolidating in this situation. Like, I'm still Devontae Smith's side.
Yeah. Especially this time of year, as we get closer, I do want to try to ground myself in some reality. So I have some betting lines pulled up on my other screen over here. So Devontae Smith, he's projected on Bet365 to go for 1,050. Puka, 1,150. So the books only have really 100-yard difference I'm guessing a health bet for both wide receivers, right? So again, I'm right there with you, JB. Like I feel like what I can do with Smith in those firsts, it can make up the gap, especially on a team I'm not trying to win. Pure point bet on a week-by-week basis, give me Puka, but you're not trading into a Tyler Lockett. You're getting into a young asset on an ascending offense that has consolidated target shares as is between A.J. Brown and Smitty. So I like it. Now, Goat Rings then went and sent away Christian Kirk. We already talked about him, and got into Pop Douglas, old Demario Douglas. I mean, I like Pop Douglas, but if I'm trying to get out of Christian Kirk on a rebuild, I don't really want to just buy back into a wide receiver. I'd rather do something different with that. There's not a lot of juice on this trade, so it's just a player take. I'll take Kirk over Pop Douglas and bet that I'll be able to sell Kirk for more in season than Pop Douglas. Do you see that any different?
No, I'm exactly there, Ty. You have Christian Kirk. I know we're rebuilding, and I know we're taking over an orphan here, but in taking on Demario Douglas, even if he were to go out, if you have a second and you still have the prop bets up, like what's Douglas's over under on this season? Because even if he outperforms that by 20 to 30%, how much more? Like you're not going to ever get a 25 first for him. So you would think maybe like a 25 second plus best case.
Yeah.
You could have just gotten that for Christian Kirk.
It's not great when the books don't have you on the books, right? So I can tell you Christian Kirk's at 875. All right. Now I can tell you Pop Douglas ain't there. So yeah.
It's just, and I like Demario Douglas. Like if you would have given me, I think you could have gotten like a 2-3 swap here.
Yeah.
You could have gotten a second in Demario for Christian Kirk and a third. I would have been interested to see how those discussions went, or again, if it was just a blind offer. But I have a lot of Christian Kirk in my portfolio, even if not contending. I personally could not do a straight swap.
Yeah. Because I feel like if you're making that swap today, you're probably saying, well, I can't move Kirk. But right now is not the time to move Kirk.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Kirk, you can move Kirk in season when he is producing, actually doing things. So we're right there. Just hold on. We're almost there. But yeah, if you straight swap into Pop Douglas, you're basically betting that Pop Douglas is going to be more than Christian Kirk, and that you can do more with that when the time comes. And I just don't know if that's the case. But Goat Rings, best of luck to you to have that pulled off. But I get it. Get out of the producing asset on your rebuilding teams, but do so smartly and do so in a certain way. I don't know if that's the way I would have approached that. Okay. Let's see this one. 12 team start 10 lineup, Superflex PPR. We got a half tight end premium. Look at this team. You got Mahomes, Burrow, and Fields. We got Jacobs, Kamara, Swift, Ford, Gibson, CD, Tyreek, Puka, Smitty, Ridley, Kincaid, 25 firsts, 325 seconds, 225 thirds, 226 firsts. So they sent away Devon Achane, the upside king, and Darnell Mooney, and they got back Josh Jacobs, a 2025 first and a 2025 second. I like Achane as a bet to be a difference maker at running back and a efficient offense where he can have those pop plays, put up crooked numbers. Josh Jacobs is just going to get probably all the volume until he can't anymore. And if I have Josh Jacobs on my team where I'm acquiring him, that's purely what my bet is based on. If you're giving me a first on top of Jacobs to move out of another running back, I'm just going to take the process side of that. Give me the first and the running back who can produce similarly week over week. And then you can have that Darnell Mooney if you give me a second. Pretty easy. Do you see that any different, JB?
I remember seeing this in the Discord, and initially it was Jacobs and a first for Achane. And I had responded. This is before it was dropped in the trade show, completed trades. And I was like, yes, you're getting the insulation. You're getting, 80, 85% of production. And that might be generous. Like Jacobs very well could outscore Achane on a per game basis when it's all said and done this year. And you're flipping Mooney for the second. So this one, it was an easy one for me. And I think that entire team was dropped in the chat just to humble brag with that wide receiver core. Like that's a strong team from top to bottom. And now you have those picks at your disposal. When we get more information regarding usage and personnel as the season progresses, we know players that are healthy at that point. So the more information we get, the more leverage and assets you have at your disposal here to be able to pounce, especially if another team is entering a rebuild by week 4 or week 5. And now you can ship off those picks and turn a nice little profit. Like Achane is not costing you. He shouldn't cost you 225 first, especially with what we talked about with the running back class coming out next year. So you can probably get a very similarly valued asset for that first and second if the opportunity presents itself, because of maybe a team is looking to rebuild at that point in time, and you're getting the Jacobs Mooney swap there. Like I love the structure of this trade.
I'm trying to think of a format where I wouldn't want to do this deal, and nothing's truly coming to mind. Like I say, I agree. Like there's only seldom running backs who you can demand like a single liquid first for. And Achane, I think it's a coin flip on your league, how your league mates feel about him, or it's going to be a team by team kind of context matters kind of thing.
You could probably get ETN, Barkley, Kyron for that first and second, and I have all three of them tier with Achane. Yes, Achane gives you that potential to drop a 50 burger any given week, but like we can't necessarily be counting on that. So, like, give me most of that production. And I think again, I love the structure of this deal.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's really well done. Like I say, if you're playing the Delta game, like Jacobs and A10, it shouldn't be that far apart on a weekly basis. And then, like I said, the second to Mooney is the second. The first is just, even if it's a late first, I feel just, again, the structure of it is set up really well to make a bet like this. So I like this deal a lot. Really good way to leverage some of that Achane hope into something that's you can probably use a little more on your team for the way you're set up.
Or go move that first for DJ Moore right now. Like move that first for Michael Pittman. You could probably get DK Metcalf in some situations. And it's a net win any way you look at it.
Yep. Like I said, you have Jacobs, Kamara, Swift, Ford, Gibson now. You can go a different couple ways, but I mean, you're set up pretty well to fill any holes that pop up in season. So, good work. I'll take that liquidity for sure. Okay, here we go. We don't really. Here we go. 12 team, start 11. Best ball. This is best ball. Put on our best ball hats. I don't play too much best ball, but we do love our best ball over here. So PPR 6-point passing touchdown. We got Brock Purdy being acquired for Bryce Young, Jalen McMillan, and a 25 third. when I'm playing best ball, I don't need to climb all the way to the top of the quarterback ladder. It's more how I want to structure my team. I want a certain threshold of running back where I don't want to use the word consistency, but I'll use the word reliability. I want reliable production. I want reliable workloads. I don't want to have zeros. A third, I can use that in season to pick up starts when I need to, sure. But the difference between Bryce Young and Brock Purdy on a week-to-week basis, I'm just going to rely on Brock Purdy. And I'll bet that I'll be able to make better use of my roster spot than I would with that Jalen McMillan. And you can have the third to make the deal go through. Now, I know best ball is not really the forte, but how do you see this one?
I don't care if it's best ball. I don't care if it's lineup. I don't care if you're playing Go Fish somewhere. Like this one, I was looking at it. I was like, well done by this Michigan State team getting Brock Purdy for Bryce Young, who is one of the, like, there's no reason, even in best ball, I don't care who your other quarterbacks are, to take on that risk. And yes, we could say, well, Brock Purdy, the draft capital, is he going to get extended eventually? Brock Purdy has shown me enough to be valued where he should be valued. And it is not at the cost of Bryce Young, Jalen McMillan, and a 25 third. I don't get this trade at all. And I try to be very open with a lot of trades, but this one, Ty, I don't get it at all. Is it the Jalen McMillan hype that we're getting this training camp? Is it the thought that, yeah, Chris Godwin, maybe he's gone eventually, Mike Evans, he's not getting any younger? Like, it doesn't do it for me. Like, it's such unnecessary risk. You could have, like, if you're looking to break up Brock Purdy, you could have done it in so many different ways to make sense, especially in a 6-point passing touchdown league with one of the most favorable quarterback systems out there. And Brock Purdy has also shown the talent to pair with that. Just doesn't make sense for me. I am absolutely smashing Brock Purdy there.
Yeah. Like I said, if I had more team context and Bryce Young, Brock Purdy, they're like your quarterback for, like, okay, but even then, like, is that really the return I'm looking for on a deal? I think in best ball, we can sometimes get out in front of our skis thinking the 2-for-1s, the 3-for-1s. Oh boy, I need to do that because I just need more in best ball. But there is a quality factor to it. And I like to approach best ball with a economy and efficiency of a roster spot in mind. If I can move from a Bryce Young to a Brock Purdy, I feel like I probably have to carry less quarterbacks week over week because I feel more reliable and secure in what Brock Purdy can provide my team. I do see Brock Purdy in a much higher tier. I know you said the price is the price on Purdy. I feel like the price isn't high enough on Purdy for what he can do and what he actually provides to your teams. So Jalen McMillan in a third, hopium. It's not. It doesn't bridge the gap for me here. So I'll take Brock Purdy. Just be wary in best ball leagues, right? It's a 2-for-1s aren't built the same, and you don't want to split your dollar into 30-cent pieces, right? If you're going to split a Brock Purdy, maybe it's Bryce Young, a second, and then a wide receiver dart. Something else where I can maybe sink my teeth into one of the other assets more than a third in McMillan. Or if there's a certain way that you're trying to approach your roster construction and this helps you accomplish it, okay. But I'm just going to take Purdy here.
I mean, you probably could have. There's leagues, and again, I don't really play best ball, but like a Bryce Young, JSN. Like, yeah, I would think that could get done. Like, and you talk about Brock Purdy not being valued highly enough in my cross positional and startup tiers. I have 4 quarterbacks that are, all relatively close that are in green. And if they're in green on my sheet, they're a buy. Kyler Murray, Brock Purdy, Dak Prescott. And actually, I think Tua can still be acquired at a very reasonable price. But Brock Purdy, again, if he had different draft capital, this would not be a conversation.
No, absolutely. Like I said, I'm on the Brock Purdy side of that one there, Richie. But, oh boy. Oh, we got some busy deals here. Speaking of JSN. All right, so it looks like a 10-team league, start 13, 28-man rosters, PPR, 6-point passing touchdowns. Oh, it's one of these leagues. So you have to start 2 quarterbacks. You have to start 3 running backs. You have to start 4 wide receivers. You have to start 2 tight ends. And you have to start 2 flexes. So a little more. Go ahead.
I didn't want to cut you off, so I
No.
raised my hand that time
Yes.
like I'm back in school. What do you mean one of those leagues? What does that mean?
I mean, when you're looking at your roster week over week and you don't have that wide receiver 4, you're pulling your hair out on Sunday mornings trying to fix that, right?
Yeah.
You don't have your usual 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, a bunch of flexes, and a super flex. No. You have to have very specific requirements week over week.
Yeah, I'm in the middle. Like I've talked to Scott Connor about this. We actually just talked about it on the podcast feed. I don't know if it was on part 1, which is out already, or part 2, which is coming out. But like the leagues where it's quarterback and then like 1 running back, 1 wide receiver, 1 tight end, then flex. Like I understand people like to build their roster and have that flexibility, but when you remove the positional scarcity of any kind, it really limits trading because you don't need to go out and do that. But then on the other hand, when you make the starting requirements like this, and it's one of those leagues, which I kind of agree with you, it limits trading as well because I can't move that guy because he's my wide receiver 4 and I have no other depth. And like, I feel like when you go too far one way or the other, it can really limit trading. So you kind of got to find those sweet spots. Not to go off on a tangent there.
No, that was a good tangent. And it's true. Like there is a pretty delicate balance there. But I do find in leagues like this, your JSNs and your Pop Douglases actually are probably more useful in trades, and people can tell themselves a story. So let's go back a step because this is a subsequent deal. So in this 10-team Start 13 league, CMAC LBB I think that's how you say it. They acquired Rashee Rice, Devontae Adams, Zamir White, Jonathan Brooks, Justin Jefferson, and a 2025 second. And lefty golfer 08 got back Jahmyr Gibbs, Chris Olave, JSN, a 2025 first, and a 2026 first of the team they're sending all these assets away to. Goodness gracious, that's a lot of stuff being moved around. You have Justin Jefferson on one side of the deal, and I'm gonna go out on a limb and say they are the best player in the deal from a dynasty perspective, and just from where they rank, I guess, as a wide receiver. You got Jahmyr Gibbs on the other side, a hammer at running back, and I mean, JB, help me out here. We have a really busy deal, and I like to try to cross things off. What makes sense for you to cross off in this deal?
Just for me and maybe the listeners too. What's the settings again?
I got you. Yeah, 10-team, Start 13, PPR, 6-point passing touchdown. So PPR, start 2 quarterbacks, start multiple people at each position. Yeah.
So again, the 10-team aspect elevates the value of the picks a little bit because there's fewer first round picks, but also it's a Start 13. So these first, they should be valued more than a 12-team Start 10. Because of the additional, context there. If we're crossing stuff off, just ballpark, I think JSN, Rice, like they're close enough for me. If you want to, JSN is so divisive. Yeah. So I know there's some people watching this and they're saying they're not even close, but some might say it because they're on the right side, some are on the JSN side. So let's just cross them off.
Yeah.
25 first for Brooks.
That's probably about right. You just spent a first to get him, probably. Right.
26 first for Adams.
On a contending team, I can make that bet. Yep.
Especially when you have to start 4 receivers. Yeah. So that's leaving us Olave and Gibbs for Jefferson, White in the second. I know Jefferson, he's the absolute stud, but in these settings where I think I do lean the Gibbs side, but this is a fun trade. Any way you slice it up, I think you give or take a little bit here, but overall it's a fun trade.
Yeah.
Why can't you give me an easy one like that Brock Purdy one again? Come on.
I know. We'll circle back to Brock Purdy there, but
yeah. I think I lean the Gibbs side.
Yeah, and the context of the league really matters on this one too. And there's not really any dud assets being thrown around here. I mean, Zamir White's hurt again. So I mean, right? I think it was Kendra Miller's hurt again. Never mind. Zamir White's still cool. We're good on Zeus. Let's try and break down a different way. See if we feel differently. So Olave and a 25 first. That doesn't get you to Jefferson in this format, does it?
No, it's unless we have additional context on that 25 first that it's super early.
I'm going to guess if you're acquiring Devontae Adams, Justin Jefferson, Jonathan Brooks, Rashid Rice, Zamir White in a second, that you're not going to have an early first. So
right.
Would it be Chris Olave, JSN, and a first, or Olave and 2 firsts to get to Jefferson? Does that get it done for you?
I would do... Oh, man. If I had Jefferson and I was offered Olave in the first, it would not be enough. Olave, JSN in the first would be enough for me to move Jefferson. So I think it's somewhere, maybe like you kick back Zamir White in that deal.
Sure.
And that kind of balances out a little bit.
Jefferson, Zamir White for Chris Olave, JSN in the first. Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, so Gibbs for Jonathan Brooks. I want to play, I guess, the second, Jonathan Brooks in a second for Jahmyr Gibbs. Does that close that gap for you?
Nah, that doesn't get me there.
No. So Jonathan Brooks and Devontae Adams, does that close a gap for you?
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
I think that would be fairly close. These honestly, tied up these league settings, they're really screwing with me, man.
They really do. Because you're like, well, it's that, but that's useful on a week-to-week basis. So how do I really value it? And so it's a very interesting league there. Now, if my math is correct, I think we're left with Rashid Rice in a second for a 26 first. I think.
Yeah, and when we frame it that way, I think I'm flipping. But if Lefty is not contending,
yeah,
I don't want to say Devontae Adams. By no means am I saying he's a throwaway, but you're more willing to get off of him in a deal like this. Same with Zamir White. But then if Lefty's not contending and his second is early that he's moving and that first coming back is late, now it widens that gap. You know what? And that's why these exercises are so great. I'm going to switch here. Give me the Jefferson side before I switch again.
I know, because I feel like it's a tough deal to dig into. One, because the league context, it does matter here. But two, not a lot of the pieces fully add up and have a nice little puzzle piece fit. So you do have to take different bits and pieces. And in those kind of deals, I am just drawn towards the hammers and like the real market movers. I do feel like Jefferson is the biggest market mover here. I do think Gibbs definitely matters in a 10-team start 13. But Brooks, Zamir White, that second, I feel like I can figure out that running back spot for sure with that. Devontae Adams is going to be forever stay in my lineup in this format. Rashid Rice, I haven't heard anything about his suspension coming down the pipe yet. I bet that's going to be at least next season if that does happen. In this context, in this league, Rashid Rice matters. Chris Olave, JSN, the first, definitely nice. Just give me the Jefferson side, and I'll figure that out. I'll figure that out down the road. Now, Lefty did get this offer done, and then they sent that JSN away, and 2/3 got into Pop Douglas, another 25 first, and a 25 fourth. So JSN and a 25 first. I'm gonna take the 25 first just out of principle because I feel like I feel like JSN just falls in that replaceable range. That's not something I'm trying to leverage a future pick on. Pop Douglas in a fourth for 2/3, and then a little bit of extra on the first side. Just give me Pop in the first. And then you kind of bring everything together. They now have 3 extra firsts in their pocket after a couple deals. They moved that JSN bag along with it. How do you feel about this one?
I prefer the 25 first deal here. Again, I'm expecting improvement here from Jackson Smith and Jigba. I'm expecting a better season from Geno Smith. I'm expecting things to be more open here with the new OC coming in, the better system. Yes, their pass to run ratio was high last year, but their pace of play, let me rephrase that. Just the total number of plays they ran was part of the issue there when you look at it. So I do think he's going to improve, he being Jackson Smith and Jigba, but to move it from a process perspective and get the 25 first with Douglas, I'll make that move. And I think then it closes that gap over the net of everything that we've talked about.
Yeah. There's definitely a reality where you're right, and JSN he takes that big step forward, and you feel happy that you made that deal, and the 25 first is late, and you're laughing. But I'm just going to take what feels like I can figure out JSN, especially in this league where, again, there's just such a flat range of wide receivers that fall there, like we talked about before. I can probably replace that cheaper, and I'll just take the first. And like I said, now you're acquiring multiple firsts in multiple classes. You're really aligning your team more for that future. So I like this one a lot more, lefty golfer. Like I said, I'll take the Jefferson deal, but we had to talk ourselves back and forth on it. So that means it's probably a really good deal. So, good work there.
I'm going to be thinking about that deal all night, and I'm not even kidding you.
I know.
And I'm probably going to shoot you a DM like, maybe now I'm thinking this way, but no, overall, I think it is a good deal. Honestly, I really do.
Yeah.
Both ways.
I want to keep looking at it because I feel like I'm going to switch again, but that's good enough. That's good enough. All right. Nice and simple. 12 teams, start 12, super flex, 2 tight end premium, 2.0 tight end premium. We have no tight ends in the deal, but the Blue King acquired Christian Kirk. This is the Christian Kirk show. Geez. Christian Kirk in 2 seconds. Both in 2026 for Curtis Samuel, a 26 first and a 2025 third. Curtis Samuel and Christian Kirk. I'll want Christian Kirk, but Curtis Samuel can, again, if you're talking wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4, wide receiver 5 on your roster, they're probably going to do the same thing. And if you're telling me I can move 2 seconds into a first and a third, let's do it. Probably easiest way to cross it off, Curtis Samuel and a third for Kirk and a second, or Samuel and a first for Kirk and a second. Again, I'll just take the first. Are you seeing that any different than I am?
No, I again, like if that 26 first and one of those 26 seconds ends up being super close together, it's a big win. Well, not a big win. It's a win for the Blue King here, getting the Christian Kirk side. But I think if Curtis Samuel stays healthy, I would expect him and Christian Kirk to be maybe 1 or 2 points apart per game. And you're pairing a pair of seconds here. You're pairing a pair of seconds. A lot of pairs there for that 26 first. And again, it comes back to a process move there and betting on the variance between now and that 26 draft. I'll take the 26 first, but it kills me because I do love Christian Kirk. But give me the first.
Would it make you feel a little bit better about sending away Christian Kirk if you knew that you had Josh Allen and now you're stacking that Josh Allen with that Curtis Samuel? It's not something you need to do, but does it make you feel a little bit better?
Maybe this is my, I don't want to say anti-best ball bias coming out, but I don't really care about stacking in Dynasty. With how quickly things change. Like I had a conversation with somebody earlier today, and they were talking about a Dak CeeDee Lamb stack. And I was like, enjoy the stack for a year. Like it's just something that I don't. Now, if you have 2 players tiered together and you have to decide between them and one gives you the stack, fine. If that's the way you want to differentiate, no problem. But I don't actively go out of my way to do that. But again, maybe that's just my anti-best ball, correlation oozing through the screen here. So.
No, I don't think you're that. Yeah, I don't think you're off there at all. I mean, I like to build in correlation in my lineups when I can, and the idea is if I have to have less outcomes go right for me to hit the way I need to, I'll do my best to do that. But if I'm not in best ball and really mostly in best ball, I'm interested in stacking my tight end with my quarterback. When it comes to a wide receiver, I can take it and leave it. I've had cases where I've tried to accumulate entire wide receiver cores on best ball rosters. So whichever option goes off, I have it. But I don't need the correlation, the stack. And it's not the main reason you do that. It's not something I want to pay for. But if you're on the edge on a deal, like you're saying, and what puts you over the edge is, well, this makes my Josh Allen bet a little more correlated. Okay, cool.
And just for, context is the word of the hour here. Did we have the league settings and the starting requirements for this one?
12 team start 12, Superflex 2 tight end premium 2.0 or start 2 tight ends 2.0 tight end premium lineup.
Yeah. Okay. No change here from me then.
Yeah. Bad moves around. Yeah. Sleeper protecting people from landing on trade shows. Do not hide the names, people. Please give the names. All right. Back to best ball. 12 teams start 13. Best ball, Superflex, boosted scoring across the board. Geno Smith and Jacoby Brissett being acquired right now in July, August for a 2026 second and a 2025 second. Another pair of seconds, JB. You got Geno Smith, who's projected to be the starting quarterback in Seattle. Like you just mentioned, you can see them maybe taking that step forward as a whole offense. You have Jacoby Brissett, who I will, if I had to put money on, I say he will start the season as the New England starting quarterback. And in best ball, like I said, having those starters matter, especially if your quarterback room looks like Cousins, Baker, and Minshew. You're going to want probably another couple names, but having 5 starting quarterbacks, you can usually rival some of the teams that have an elite quarterback or 2 on a week-by-week basis. But am I spending 2 seconds to do that on 2 non-desirable quarterback options? JB, I want to hear what you think, but I don't know if I'm making this move today because I feel like I can pay that price for those 2 assets when I need to. And week 1 is not when I need those assets, in my opinion.
Did we have the quarterback scoring here?
It just says boosted across the board. Nothing else really to go off of.
This is, I think we're going to disagree here really for the first time. For some reason, I'm drawn to Geno Smith.
Yeah.
And again, I really do think that offense takes us a step forward here and we get closer to what we saw in 2022. If this is a +4 league, but again, it's boosted scoring across the board, but +4 league, I'll keep the seconds. But if it's +6, I'm going to hope that neither of those seconds ends up early. But if my team is strong enough from top to bottom outside of quarterback, especially in best ball here, you're going to get some usable weeks there from Geno and maybe Brissett to start the year, even with Cousins and Baker there. Not really sure how things obviously play out in Vegas with Minshew and Aiden O'Connell.
Yeah.
I think I'll. Oh my gosh! Now that I'm thinking about it more, I think you could have done this for less.
Yeah.
That's my from a market perspective. I think this deal could have got done for less, or I would have tried to acquire Geno Smith just by himself. How much is Brissett swinging in this? I'm going to go the picks, actually. Give me the picks.
This is a deal I'll make if I know that Jacoby Brissett's a starter and that's locked in. I'll feel a lot better about that because when I think about a second, right, and one of those seconds is in 2026, how many starts, how many entries into your lineup do you really need from an asset for that second to be worth it? We have no idea on where those seconds are going to land, but if Geno enters your lineup twice, is that worth a second to you?
Exactly. And as I was talking through, like with Cousins and Baker, maybe you get a few usable games from Minshew. Maybe you get some depth positional players that if it's really boosted scoring across the board, they could put up the production. I just think this deal could have been done either later, like you said, or it could have been done for less.
Yeah, I agree. And the thing about a best ball league is that means that typically most of those backup quarterbacks and those starters that are going to become available later in the year are going to be on waivers. So you just got to be able to grind that out and be there. But I don't need to have my quarterback 4 and 5 figured out. I guess Geno would be higher in the order, but I don't need to add my 4th and 5th quarterback on my best ball rosters to make it look beautiful now. And I don't want to spend 2 seconds to make that bet now. But if Geno starts the whole year and is the Geno that we hope he can be, if Brissett starts for half the season, it's probably worth it for those picks. And this is the exact team that I would like to do this for, because you can actually see the path of those quarterbacks entering your lineup and making a difference for your team. If you had like different quarterbacks, a different combination where Geno and Brissett probably aren't going to find their way in, miss me with it completely. But the best ball brings it closer for me. I'm just going to keep the picks and bet that either I can pay this when I need it down the line, or like you said, I can figure this out for cheaper.
It's the same thing we discussed earlier. Like, even if Geno Smith comes out and has a strong first month, are you ever going to have to pay more than this?
No.
Probably not. Maybe you have to drop off Jacoby from the deal.
Right.
And maybe the deal, maybe they go and trade Geno to someone else and, now it's completely wasted. But like, for the most part, even if he comes out and has a strong start to the year, he's not going to cost you a first. No. He shouldn't, at least, and you should not be paying that. But like, as we've talked about this more, in more detail, it's an unnecessary risk. There we go. I spit it out eventually.
There you go.
And you just didn't have to do it.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, well, hey, but bad mood rise, that one could definitely work out for you. You just got to be right. That's all. So good luck on that. Okay, I think this is the one we're ending on. We're coming back to a Goat Rings trade, JB. We got 12 teams, super flex, full PPR, non-tight end premium, and a start 11. So a 12-team start 11 super flex PPR. This team is loaded, and they're looking for their quarterback 3. So they got Mr. Caleb Williams. They pair Caleb Williams with Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, and Justin Fields. Their wide receivers, Maroon, CeeDee Lamb, Jamar Chase, Tyreek Hill, DJ Moore, Chris Olave, Tank Dell, Romo Dunze, Malik Neighbors, Xavier Worthy, Lad McConkey, and I'm assuming that is Devontae Smith. So Goat Rings acquired Caleb Williams, Keon Coleman, a 25 third and a 2026 second. And they sent away Michael Penix, a 2025 first, a 2026 first, and another 2025 first. So Penix and 3 firsts for Caleb Williams, Keon Coleman, a second and a third. This is what I'll say. On a team that I have Jackson, Hurts, Lamb, Chase, Hill, DJM, Olave, Tank, Rome, Malik, Nick, 14 other wide receivers. I have zero need for a Keon Coleman. And if I'm just trying to bet on tradability, let me keep my first versus sending that in a deal where I'm getting stuff back, and Keon's one of those things. The second and the third, okay. But if I have Hurts and Jackson, and I have Fields in reserve just as that feel-good bet, you had Penix. Do you really need that Caleb Williams? And do you need to pay 3 liquid first and Michael Penix to get that done today? Goat Rings, I love it. I think you got into good assets, but from everything we've talked about, JB, I think I want Penix in the first. Am I wrong? From
a value standpoint, I have no issue with this trade at all. Yeah. And in a different situation, no issue. But it looks like even if you don't have strong running backs or strong tight ends, you have the assets to be able to move to put yourself at the top of the mountain here for 2024 if you chose to go that route. Because of that, I don't like storing so much value in my quarterback 3, whether that ends up being Lamar, Hurts, or Caleb. If I'm not contending and I'm looking to consolidate picks or points into one position, quarterback is the one to do it. I'm whistling a different tune there. But then, you're not going to be moving your picks if you're not contending. But just from a overall strategy standpoint, I don't want to store that much value in my quarterback 3 in this specific situation. Now, Krogan is bringing on all these picks. He's bringing on Michael Penix. I think it might be safe to assume that he's not contending. Goat Rings very well could put himself in a position where he is contending in 25 and 26 if he already isn't. So the 26 second from Krogan and the 26 firsts from Goat Rings, they could be fairly close together.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're talking about Caleb Williams for 225 firsts, Michael Penix for Keon Coleman. Again, value-wise, I actually do like the Caleb side. I just don't think it's necessary, like Ty said. Like, if I saw this trade go through in a league, it's not a trade I'd be like, oh, check out this trade. Like,
Right.
I think it's fine.
Yeah.
But I just don't think you had to do it. That's my issue. It kind of goes with a little bit of a different structure and situation, but that Geno Smith trade we talked about, it was fine. I just don't think you needed to do it, and it didn't need to be structured that way. Same thing here. Mm-hmm. I just don't think it was entirely necessary.
Yeah. And again, I agree. Like, I don't think Goat Rings can do anything on this team to wipe the stench of a late playoff first off those firsts, right? So I would absolutely bet that 25 first and 26 first are late. We have no idea on the other 25 first. We'll call it random. But if you're right on those picks you sent away, yeah, like Caleb Williams, the package, especially that 2026 second is early as well. That's, like I said, I like that little how close can we get that delta if that's the bet. Like, I like working that way. And if I am trying to build differently and disrupt my league mates, having 3 elite quarterbacks changes the distribution of just elite points across my league. And if I'm right, that could be a big advantage, because it's not that my team has an asset it can't use. It's that your team and 11 other teams in my league, or is it a 10 team or a 12 team league?
It was 12.
Yeah. 11 other teams in my league can't use that asset against me. So there is a bit of keep away and, insulated value in Caleb Williams. We talked about liquidating Marv for 3 firsts. I feel like Caleb Williams for 3 firsts is probably along the same lines. We don't have the early first in it, whatever. Michael Penix, when he starts, he should be worth at least a first. And I've seen it happen. People want to spend first for Penix today. You said it really well. Value-wise, this is a fine deal, but I don't know if you had to do it. And again, you already have so many hammers. Just let me keep the first, and I'll be able to fill in those gaps when I need to. I don't need to be right or have the perfect team today.
Agree.
Well,
but man, that is a fun roster, though, man.
Oh my god,
that's a super fun roster.
You pull that up at like 11:30, and I just still look at it and smile at before you go to bed, right? Like, you're having fun if you wake up, that's your league. But John, thank you so much for coming on, man. I really appreciate what you guys all doing over on Dynasty Theory, and I think just the more conversations we can have in this space, just on how to approach things and the psychology behind it, and then why context matters, I think it makes us all better players. I think you guys are really good at that. So what do y'all have cooking over at Dynasty Theory? Where can the people find you? And once again, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, Ty, first of all, this was fantastic. I was looking forward to it since you asked me. I know you had Mitch, my co-host / nemesis, on last week, and I gotta get more views on this episode. That's all I'm saying. I won't hear the end of it. Before I talk about Dynasty Theory, are you going to be in Canton?
No, I'm not. No.
Oh, come on, man.
I'm sorry. I'm in Canada. I have to clear out the checking and the savings to get there. It's a whole thing.
I get it. I understand. So anyway, for Dynasty Theory, we have some things on the horizon, some exciting changes coming up. I don't want to get into that quite yet. But we're over on YouTube, the Dynasty Theory Fantasy Football Podcast. We are on wherever you listen to your podcast. As you can tell, I'm stumbling through this answer because I have exciting news,
yes,
but I don't want to share it quite yet. But you can find me on X at the Bauer Club. I mentioned Mitch. He's at Dino MC on X, and then our third co-host, Dan Lamagna, he's at FF Coach Dan. Follow them. All three of us, we have very different perspectives, but it rounds it out and brings it all together very nicely, in my humble opinion. Mm-hmm. So if you haven't listened to an episode of Dynasty Theory, come check us out.
It's really nice that you're able to get John Cena to show up just week after week with that pseudonym of Dan. Like, I really appreciate that for the show. And I think the dynamic y'all bring is really, really awesome. And I really like to tune into your shows. So Please go check out Dynasty Theory. Thank you for checking out this show. If you found this actionable, entertaining, somewhere in between, all I ask, hit the like, hit subscribe, and hit the little refresh button a couple times just to run up the views so that JB can beat Mitch in their little side bet. Oh, you're muted. There goes the views.
No. I'm not muted. I was just mouthing it. I just like.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, the wheels fell off at the end, JB, but we made it. Patreon.com/ALLGAS. Get your trades on this show. DestinationDevy.com. Keep up with all the cool stuff happening over there. Underdog, you know the deal. Get on there. $250 deposit bonus, special pick, all that good stuff. JB, thank you so much. Hope you enjoyed this show. Get your trades on for next week. Until then, enjoy football. It is back. We have preseason football. Yes, we out of this thing. Peace.